You know you have a body of humiliation when you do something like this. Crazy, man. It was a couple nights ago. It just all bruised up now, as you can see. But wow, that was crazy. I couldn't sleep because my wife snores. And sometimes I go to my office because I can't sleep. And I have a bed in there. And I go in there, right? And I'm sleeping for a while, and then I decide to get up and take a leak. So I get up to take a leak to go to the washroom. And there I am, groping in the dark. I don't have no light, and I don't know where the light is. I'm half asleep, and I can't figure it out. So I'm feeling, because I think I know where the door is. So I go after the door, and there's a couple suitcases in there that we just got or whatever. But I went right over to the suitcase, come right down on my elbow, like just boom. And man, I laid there, and I was moaning and groaning. I thought I was just going to die right then. I was just like, and I just like smashed that pretty damn good. Like, wow. Big bruise and everything. So we do have a body of humiliation. If you don't know it, something will occur that you'll find out that you have a body of humiliation. You know, these physical bodies are dying. The outward man is dying. The inward man is being renewed day by day. But the outward man is dying and decaying. Well, we know that when we do shit like this. Or we have bodily aches or physical ailments, whatever it may be. You have to realize that, yes, we are still in bodies of humiliation. We're not perfected yet. But as all of my fellow believers would agree, can we not wait for our new bodies? We long for it. We crave it. We need our new bodies. These bodies are dying vessels. They're going back to the soil as we breathe and walk and live and think and do. This is it. So we long for that new body that's incorruptible. Put on immortality. This is what we want and we crave for and we long for every moment of every day. I thank God that He's going to give us a new body, especially after doing something like that. Good morning. Welcome to the show. Okay, we're on chapter 3. God's will, counsel, and intention. You got to understand, God's will and counsel, and intention. These are three different things. We need to break this down to understand it. Okay. The farmer's will is to have a barn full of corn next fall. His counsel tells him that in order to have his will fulfilled, he must prepare the ground, plant the seed, and cultivate the plants through months of heat. This is not his will, but makes it his intention in order to realize the fulfillment of his will. By this illustration, we may understand the difference between God's will, His counsel, and His intention, because there is a difference. He's operating the universe in accord with the counsel of His will. Of course, that's Ephesians 1:11. Beautiful, beautiful passage. We need to understand this passage. He does not operate it in accord with His will. He operates it in accord with the counsel of His will. In the Greek, B-O-U-L-E, boule means counsel, while B-O-U-L-E-M-A means intention. M-A, or ma, means effect. So intention is counsel effect in the Greek elements, or the effect of the counsel. Counsel, of course, means advice. In Romans 9, God's will was to set Israel free from Egyptian bondage, to show His power and to glorify His name. He was advised by his own mind that there must be opposition on the part of Pharaoh, or his power would not be manifested. Neither would his name be glorified. The liberation of Israel without opposition would be flat, uninteresting affair that would not be worth recording. The advice of God's mind was His counsel. On this advice, He formed an intention to harden Pharaoh's heart. This he did, and then led Israel out in spite of the opposition. Thus His power was shown and His name glorified. As we read the account in Exodus, we are apt to wish the kings heart had been soft. This was the trouble. It was soft. It was too soft to suit God's purpose. So God hardened it. Exodus 7:13, chapter 9, verse 12, chapter 10, verse 1 and 20, chapter 27, verse 11, and verse 27, chapter 11, verse 10, and chapter 14, verse 8. And this is all in Exodus. The story of Pharaoh and God hardening his heart because he was too soft. Think about that. We would gladly like to do a lot of the things we want to do, but God puts opposition in order for us not to do them on purpose. God has had a goal in view from the beginning. If he should reach it without opposition, there would be no glory for him. On the other hand, he must have complete control, not only to provide the opposition, but to succeed in spite of it. Otherwise, there would still be no glory for him. Amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. A weak parallel is seen in a game of football. There must be stiff resistance, or there is no glory for the winning team. No team worthy of the name wants to reach the goal without opposition. God is love, 1 John 4:8, and he was love in his creation. He placed the creation in the Son of his love. This was his will. But he was advised that his creatures would never love him unless they were first lost in sin and then saved. This was his counsel. Based on this counsel was his intention, that his creatures should be lost first in order that they may taste the awfulness of sin, and thus be prepared to be fully responding to his love, when they should be saved from sin. I cannot read the account of the fall of man, quote unquote, without being fully assured that it all happened according to God's intention. Please do not get his will mixed up with his intention. Sin is against his will. He hates it, but it is according to his intention. He set the stage and let sin come in. If sin is not part of his plan, he could have prevented it. The immediate effect of sin was not wholly bad, for man received a knowledge of good as well as evil. Prior to the fall, quote unquote, he was as ignorant concerning good as he was concerning evil. Before the times of the eons, God had placed grace in Christ to save his creation from sin. 2 Timothy 1:9. All of this shows that it was God's intention that sin should come in. Without sin, there would never have been anything for Christ to do. On the other hand, Adam brought himself and all his posterity under condemnation. This was true for two reasons. In the first place, he sinned without consciously coerced to do so. Because he wasn't conscious of what God was doing. That was a thing. In the second place, sin must bring condemnation, or it would never serve his purpose as a background for the grace of God, which saves sinners. If sin brought no condemnation, we would never appreciate the blessings of salvation. The scriptures abound in specimens of the difference between God's will, his counsel, and his intention. We may read the account of the giving of the law to Israel and be profoundly impressed that it was God's intention that they should keep it. Not so as we find in Romans 5:20. Yet law crept in that the offense should be increasing. The King James Version has it. Moreover, the law entered that the offense might abound. It was God's will that grace might have an opportunity to super-exceed. His counsel advised him that grace would not have this opportunity unless sin increased. On this counsel, he formed an intention that sin should increase. So really, he did not give the law to be kept. He gave it to be broken. Breaking the law was not in accord with his will, but it was in accord with his intention, in order that his will might be realized in the super-exceeding of grace. Yet this did not leave Israel guiltless. They were guilty, and here grace finds its opportunity. The crucifixion of Christ was in accord with God's will. His counsel told him that this could not be accomplished without opposition on the part of the priesthood and betrayal by a friend. So his intention included all the opposition by the priests and the betrayal of Judas. It was God's will to bring in the present secret administration of grace. Ephesians 3:2. His counsel advised him that before it could be done, Israel must reject the gospel and be set aside. So it was his intention that Israel should not believe. This throws light on John 12:39. Therefore they could not believe. It was his intention, not his will, that they should not believe. Now see what a glorious administration it is in which we live, based on Israel's belief, not based on Israel's belief, but on their unbelief. This applies in untold thousands of other instances. God is operating the universe in accord with the counsel of his will. We, like the Israelites, would have people's hearts soft. Yes, of course. We want to see the people's hearts soft and come to God. If we could understand that God's intention is to be reckoned with, perhaps we would be more patient. He has plans that require hard hearts. If the hearts of all peoples were soft, his purpose would have been defeated. No doubt Israel cried to him to soften Pharaoh's heart. His answer was to harden his heart. All the prayer meetings that might be held now would not induce God to soften the hearts of all people. So you can have your prayer circles, you can have your ministries, you can have all that junk in the religious world. That's not going to change God's mind. That is actually there to harden rather than soften. So you can see, all the religious in the world are necessary to harden and to actually deceive the people. Has anyone withstood his intention? The apostle asks in Romans 9:19. Many object to his will, but none withstand his intention. This affords me much comfort. I can laugh at persecutors, for they are carrying out God's intention concerning me without knowing it. It is his will that his truth shall travel the pathway of opposition and persecution, because this will magnify his grace, as a smooth pathway could not do. Therefore he will see to it that there are plenty of persecutors. This is his intention. God will justify himself in letting sin come into the universe when he puts it away and shows himself as his creation to be infinitely richer because of its temporary presence. We will be richer in that we will be all that God wants us to be. God will be richer in that he will rest in the full love and adoration of his creatures. When we look back on it from eternity, we shall be entirely without regrets. We need regrets now, for they make us long for his presence. But we shall have none then, for we will see that sin furnished the occasion for the display of his grace, and the background for our full response to his love. So we will have no regrets, and we should have no regrets right now. We should have no worries. Philippians says it is clear. Worry about nothing. The day is sufficient with the evil therein. This doctrine is needed. It serves to give us stability and confidence in the face of conditions that surround and engulf us. What a comfort it is to believe that he is operating the universe in accord with the counsel of his will. This is much better than believing that the universe has gotten away from God and that he is frantically striving to manage it. This doctrine also gives confidence and stability in the face of our own failures. God is at the helm and manages when we fail. Our failures are in accord with his intention. Certainly sin is left in the bodies of the saints for a definite purpose. Without it, we might forget God. Knowing it to be present, we remember him. This doctrine furnishes the background for justification. There could never be justification for sinners if sin was not, in some sense, justifiable. It is justifiable that it gives Christ something to do. furnishes an occasion for the display of his grace, and will bring infinite riches to God in the love and adoration of his creatures. Hence, as by the offense of one, judgment came upon all men to condemnation, even so by the righteousness of one, the free gifts came upon all men unto justification of life. Romans 5:18. That is so beautiful. So you have to understand God's will, counsel, and intention, and the purpose behind it. So that should give you an understanding that there is a difference between God's will, his counsel, and his intention. I love it. Beautiful, beautiful words of truth. So tomorrow, I'm going to give you a detailed explanation of the inworking of the all. Beautiful stuff. I love you all. Have a beautiful and happy Thursday. And I'll see you tomorrow.